Welcome to Sacred Success Salon, where we get to talk about how to thrive and lead as awakened leaders in these very uncertain times. I am your host, Anna Kowalska, Purpose and Prosperity Catalyst, and today it is my pleasure and delight to welcome Nancy Showalter. Welcome, Nancy.
Thank you, Anna. It is my pleasure to be here too.
So wonderful to have this conversation with you. Nancy is a law attraction coach and a spiritual mentor. And the conversation that you and I had was already such a high vibe that I cannot wait to bring it to our audience and share your perspective on the times we are in and why is it so important for the awakened leaders to really step forward and show up just as you are.
Right. For sure. These times, and in particular, this particular cycle with this virus and all, it's just showing us that it's really time to step up and be who we're meant to be. And I really believe that we are entering into a brand new cycle, a brand new age. And when that happens, you know, the whole planet, we're individually and collectively moving to a higher level of awareness, shifting everything, you know, a lot of concepts are shifting. We're shedding some limitations we've had. And the whole planet is really moving up to a higher frequency, and it's painful for some people who resist, but it's really the time for those of the light, those who know, those who want to espouse the higher level of thinking and being, and it's time. And so it's time for all of us to recognize we are unique individuals and we have special gifts that we're meant to share with the world.
Mm-hmm. I love that. So give us a little bit of and it's so aligned with my, of course I love it because it's so aligned with how I see it. So I can't even argue with you.
So, good.
So give us a little bit of a taste of how did you get to where you are right now? What are the points in your life when that gave you that awakening and the strength to be who you are?
Well, I always jokingly say I was born with a mission. Somehow, even when I was little, I always felt like, you know, I needed to do something for the world, for people, and help somehow. Of course, when you're young, you don't always know. And I remember I said to my mom one time when I was quite young, I said, can't you just feel the pain of the people in the world? And she looked at me and said, no. And so, but that was sort of the beginning. And I was always searching for enlightenment. I was raised in the Catholic religion, but by the time I was a teenager, I was exploring everything. I eventually taught yoga and had numerous classes. And that has really served me well because I taught and learned, of course, the breathing exercise. All these things fit in with your personal development and spiritual path. And then when I was in my 20s, I had an experience that I like to share because it was so life-changing. I mean, I'm sure we all have had many life-changing experiences, but this one was something that I help people with a lot at this point. And that is getting out of the victim consciousness, not letting your environment or things outside of you dictate who you are and what you do with your life. So I was at a point, and honestly, I don't remember all the details of this specific incident, but I remember the lesson and how it changed me. I was deeply hurt by something someone did. Like I said, I honestly don't even remember, but I do remember I was crying, and I was not a crying type person. I didn't cry a lot. I mean, you know, I wasn't afraid to cry, but I just didn't cry a lot. But I was crying, and all of a sudden, I actually felt myself kind of above myself, looking at myself crying while I was still physically crying. And I'm going, if I continue this way, I'll be a victim the rest of my life. And I realized there's a part of me that is not the hurting part of me. There's not the part of me that may, have suffered insults and injury. And we all have these things in our life, in our beginning life, some serious. I mean, I wasn't molested as a child. I don't have any of those horribly serious events in my life, but I have had difficult experiences. But I was quite young at this point. This wasn't such a big traumatic thing.
Right.
Somebody betrayed you or whatever they did, but I didn't. It was big to me because that's how things are for us that are painful. Yeah. So as I observed myself, I realized this part of me could love and nurture this other part of me. And I started talking to myself. And I said, Nancy, it's okay because I love you. And I figuratively, held myself and said, I love you. It was like holding a child. In fact, there's two ways to look at this experience as I grew in that experience. And that was just the beginning. It wasn't the end, because that was the beginning. But all through my life, I kept that process going as needed. Now, thank goodness it's not needed as much, but still, even to this day, if I have something, some emotion or something come up, I say, hey, chill out. You're okay. You're okay. I'm handling this. It's like the adult and the child. Or it's your higher self, that part of you that was made in the image and likeness of the divine, that part of you that is beyond the human, intellectual, emotional self, that you can nurture yourself and heal yourself. And I discovered working with people that if you need to go to a therapist, a psychiatrist, a counselor, whatever, is wonderful. But until you actually recognize that you have the power within you to step out of that painful part, step out of that angry part, step out of that fearful part, and nurture yourself. Talk to yourself, literally, verbally or mentally, and talk to yourself, nurture that child, just like you would a child. If you've had a child, it's helpful. If you haven't, doesn't matter. It's just like a child. And sometimes that child needs to be disciplined. Sometimes it's throwing a fit.
Yeah.
And you have to say, hey, that's not where we're going to go with this. But what happens is when we have an experience in the present that keys into something of the past that was painful, what happens is that vulnerable part of us just shoots right out front, and we experience that all over again. And that's where we need to say, Nancy, it's okay. I've got your back. I love you. I understand your pain, but I'm handling this. I'm the adult.
I love that. Yep, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I'm going to stop you here because I think it is really, it's a great place to pause, because it's so appropriate for where we are right now, right? Everybody is handling or going through COVID-19, however they are, right? And for some people, it is a really traumatic experience. And for some people, and it doesn't matter what's happening, it's just the way they're experiencing it, right? So I like that first of all, I really like that you presenced, there are some people who have been abused really badly in their childhood, and that's their trauma. There are some people who haven't, right? Their trauma looks different. Their trauma looks, your friend kicked you. Your best friend talked about you behind your back. That's your biggest trauma, but it's still so traumatic that it can take you out.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's important in this time too. I always say too that one of the biggest keys in life for me is when we really know, not just intellectually, but you absolutely know in every fiber of your being, the power in you is greater than any power outside of you. So therefore, you can handle anything.
Wow. That is That is great. That's amazing. So let me go back to, and I want to come back to this, but first I'm going to step back and bring that visual. I love the way you said your higher self is like a parent. I don't think I've had anybody say it that way before. And, you know, we talk about your inner child, we talk about parenting yourself, but I don't think anybody, the way you're saying it, maybe it's the frequency that you bring it with, it's different to me and you, and I love it. So I want to like pause right there, bring attention there so for all of us, for all of our viewers to really take it in. That's maybe the way that we get to connect with that higher self. Like for people who are like, well, how do I step out of where I am right now? This is really happening. I am broken down. I'm crying. I'm a mess. How do I pause, tap into my higher self? And I love that visual because, and you can please add more to it if you have a process you'd want to share or any parts of it. But I love that visual gave me an access to it. This is my higher self is like a parent.
Yes. Yes. And I talk about the higher self. I mean, it's like the adult versus the child, true. But if you get into more spiritual terms, it's the I am. I mean, think about it.
Yeah.
There's no other species on the planet that can say I am and have self-awareness. Mm-hmm. And that we can make decisions to change. I mean, animals can be very intelligent, they can be trained, they're subject to their nature. Yeah. But we have the ability to change. And that I am, you know, in the scriptures it says we're made in the image and likeness of God. Well, what does that mean? God didn't look like us. It means we are a spiritual being, truly, with a physical body for a period of time on this planet. We have a purpose here. We have something we have to accomplish. Mm-hmm. And that's what the cycle is right now. That's where it is. So this I am, this presence, it's like when we were first aware, it was like in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was with God. I am. Mm-hmm. And that's us. We have this part of us that remains in spirit when our soul comes into this embodiment. Mm-hmm. And here we are. We're always connected. So here's a big key, though. Sometimes we don't realize this, but every time we say I am, we are literally asking that divine part of ourself to create in this physical world. Mm-hmm. So it's very important what we put after those words.
I love that. So I'm going to, yeah, go ahead. I keep interrupting you.
No, that's okay. That's what it's all about. Go ahead.
My turn. That's the human me. My turn.
No problem.
So it's what's coming in right now is I know that you speak a lot to prosperity, like even the gift that you have, which we'll be talking about, talks about that. And what's really like pushing in right now to be talked about is two things, but I'm going to say this first. I use phrases I am, and some of them, like I am prosperity is one of my favorite, and it has been so intensified with my energy that anytime I say I am prosperity, money shows up in my account. It wasn't.
Oh, that's awesome.
Isn't that great?
Yes.
And of course it has to be aligned with, you know, with something, for a reason, for a purpose, because that's my belief system, right? It's not just like million shows up for nothing, but it works. And it has happened when I really started to take on not just the definition of the I am, but I really started to feel in my body, what does I am really mean?
Yes. It's anchored in the heart. That's where, when you want to connect with the I am, you let your attention drop from the brain. I like to think of it like, tell people you can think of a drop of water moving, just dripping into your pool in your heart. And you see the ripples and such, and you get your presence here, and you develop a momentum on that feeling of that heart space or that heart presence. Mm-hmm. And the Institute of Heart Math in California, you may have heard of it, that they've done tremendous research on the heart. And it's pretty amazing as to how you need that entrainment with the heart, the head, and all.
Mm-hmm.
But that's another topic. But it's wonderful to know if you meditate, move into the heart, and that is the I am space. It's the space where I am. And when you're in that space, there are no problems. You are present. You are there, and you can always go to that space. But I do want to add too, with the understanding that the I am, you can say mantras, oh, I am this, I am that, I am this, from an intellectual perspective, and it's kind of like the vain repetitions.
Yes.
It may not be doing a whole lot, but we have these spiritual centers, our chakras, they're called from the East, that when we engage our vision, the third eye chakra, and the heart and the voice, understanding that we are this manifestation of God on earth, when we understand that and that power that's within us, then you can deliberately create rather than just, now when you say I am mindlessly, you still are asking
Right.
the divine in you to create that condition. So you don't want to keep, saying I'm sick or I'm this or I'm that. And you have to be careful even with your words. Now, some people say, well, I'm just kidding myself. I'm saying I'm rich, I'm this, I'm that. But here's the key. You're not just saying it. The imagination and the vision, which is imagination. People say, well, I can't visualize. Yes, you can. I say, don't think of a pink elephant. What do you think of? First thing you see is a pink elephant in your mind. So the point is, it is imagination, because everything created on this planet was a thought first, was an idea, everything. And so this is what you're going to create the life you want, or whatever it is you're working on creating. That's the alchemy of it all. So it's an amazing opportunity to really self-understand to a greater degree, and to tap into that larger dimension of yourself. We're not just little beings here locked into this emotional stuff. And even with the thing we're experiencing now with the COVID-19 and the coronavirus, whatever you want to call it, it's not real in the sense of ultimate reality. It's going to pass. This too shall pass. Just like the pains in our life, or just like the joys of our life. Nothing stays static. So we have to know who we are and be anchored in that. And when we are, we can handle anything. And I understand trauma. My brother, when he was 39 years old, was brutally murdered. And it was a tremendous shock to our family. But you can get past those things. You really can, when you understand there's a bigger picture in all of this. And life is so short. And the older we get, the more we realize how short this opportunity really is.
So beautiful. I love the way you share about that. And I think it's your frequency that's really beautifully, like, giving an opening to. So often I think, well, it depends. See, I'm like talking myself backwards. There are different groups of people, right, that I am observing, at least, right? Those that are being driven by the news, right? Like, this is really what's happening, right? This is my reality, right? Government is sending me the check, or it's not. And I actually watch, and this is not a judgment, I watch people who I know to be deeply, or present themselves to be deeply connected and spiritual, to have rituals that they perform, to connect to their higher self. Yet I see them posting, hey, my unemployment check is not here yet. Does anybody know what's going on? Have you gotten your check? And again, this is not a judgment. But it's these groups of people who are like 3D, this is what's happening, right? This is the only reality. People who are like where you are, and I consider myself there too, where I see it as an opportunity, and where we do get to, painfully as it may be for some people, transform into this whole other reality, humanity. But then there are people in the middle, right, who are still straddling both worlds, and they know there is this, the I am, the oneness, right, the universe, there is something bigger at play, yet they are having such a difficult time disconnecting from that when it comes to their money, their, you know, their rental mortgage, maybe seeing, right, like the things that they're seeing in the news, or safety and security related things.
And that's what we've been talking about in a way.
Mm-hmm.
What's that part of you that is feeling insecure, that is afraid, that is worried? Again, it's that vulnerable part. And you're the adult in the room. You can nurture and sustain and encourage that inner child. It's okay because I'm here, I'm handling this.
Mm-hmm.
The child, like I said, when we feel some fears and stuff, we tend to put out that child, that vulnerable part.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, yeah, you know, whereas no, I'm the adult. I'm handling this. I've got your back. And, you know, sometimes things are very painful. So you love that child, and you, just like you would if a child had some pain,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and sometimes, like I said, you might start in with these patterns, these mental patterns that we've all created that are not so constructive.
Yeah.
You may have to say, Nancy, no, we're not going there. And people don't actually think they can do this, but you can. Somehow we have been led to believe that we are the victim of our emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's just how I am. That's just, I can't help it. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you can. You really can. I'm not minimizing pain. You can never suppress it.
Mm-hmm.
You can't minimize when you're having financial difficulties.
Yeah.
You don't minimize any of this.
Mm-hmm.
But you understand that you give your creative energy to where you want to be, not necessarily the power to your conditions.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing you can do about it. There's a coronavirus, right?
Yeah.
If you don't have a paycheck, you can't, you know, there's just nothing. So worrying and getting all emotional, none of that helps.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've always said, if worrying would help, I would do it, but it doesn't. It just makes it worse.
I love the fierceness, and yet there is this gentle, the way you are standing for it. It's like you always can interrupt the pattern. You just have to call in that higher self and say, hey, I'm having a hard time this moment. Can you step in? And I love that what I'm hearing, and you didn't use this word, but the word that it keeps coming in over the last 3-4 days is choice, right? Like we always have
Absolutely.
a choice. Yeah.
Yes.
To either wallow in whatever is happening and be the victim of it.
Exactly. Exactly. And I have a story about choice. Do I have time to do that?
Yes, you do. Bring it.
Well, I was also going through some of these phases about the same time. And you know how when you are a kid and you're growing up and you're trying to find your identity separate from your parents, because my parents were great,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm like, you know, and you say, I'm never going to do that when I grow up. And then as you grow up, you find yourself doing what your mother or father was doing.
Yeah.
And so that's where I was. And I was talking to a mentor, and I said, I was going on and on. I don't want to be like my mother. I don't want to be, and because she was a little dominating a little bit, but we were very close. But, you know, you're breaking away, right? And so I am going on, and he's just patiently listening. And finally I stop, and he says, you don't want to be like your mother? And I'm going, no. He pulls out his arm. See if I can make it show it.
Uh-huh.
Palm down.
Mm-hmm.
Says, you don't want to be like your mother? I said, no. Then don't be like your mother. And I mean, that made such a huge impression on me. It was like, I have the choice. Who's forcing me to be anyway? I'm
Right.
focusing on what I don't want instead of what I want to be. Just be what I want to be. Again, it's that tug of war sometimes between our child, the adult, the human self, the divine self, however you want to put it.
Yeah.
And yes, we constantly invoke that higher I am presence to be with us, around us, surround us, protect us. That is their spiritual protection. Besides the face masks and the things that we do during this coronavirus,
Mhm.
but we know everything's energy. We know there's energies out in the world, whether there's a virus or not.
Mhm.
And we can protect our force field, our air, our aura, but by invoking that light, that white light from the I am presence. And it comes from the heart, because that's where the anchor is. And that's where the open door is in the heart chakra, the heart center. So it's important to know that there are spiritual tools that we can use for protection.
Mhm.
Archangel Michael is another archangel, if you're into the spiritual side.
I love Archangel
So
Michael.
absolutely. And you can ask Archangel Michael, go before me, behind me, to the right, to the left, above and below, and encircle. It's a blue fire.
Mhm.
It's a wonderful thing. And there's also the violet flame. I don't know if you're familiar,
Yeah.
Anna, with violet flame,
Mhm.
which is a frequency that transmutes energy.
Mhm.
And so we know the violet in the spectrum, the color spectrum, the violet ray is used for purification, purifying water, all these different things in the physical.
Yeah.
It's a spiritual, energetic energy, which we
Mhm.
call a fire, but it's not, of course, physical fire.
Right.
But you can fill your aura with that. And there are mantras, all different tools that
Yeah.
people can use.
I love that. I actually, when I wake up in the middle of the night, and sometimes I want to stay awake because I'm channeling something, but sometimes I want to go back to sleep. Again, I have charged a prayer, which I've gotten from a spiritual teacher many, many years ago, and it is invoking Archangel Michael. And it's gotten to the point that I literally will fall asleep. And the prayer is page long, right? It has like 3 stanzas. I will barely get through calling Archangel Michael to my left, to my right, above and below, behind me, in front of
Yes.
me. I'm out.
That's great. Good for helping you sleep. I mean, all of these things really, they help us. They're tools,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
not the
Yeah.
end in itself.
Right.
The end in itself is being who you really are.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the end.
Yeah.
That's
But yeah, and I love that you brought presence these tools, because I think that whatever we have gathered along the way, right? Those of us, I mean, we're speaking to awakened people who have had their experiences, who have gathered some tools, some less than others, but we all have some tools in our toolboxes at this point. And I think, yeah, it's such a time for us to just use them. If you've never used them or used them a long time ago, it's just start digging them up and start playing with them powerfully and really trusting that the energy of them. So great.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it is. And that's how we can bring our gifts, our skills, our talents to the world, a world that needs it right now, as we can see.
Oh, I just got chills at the last statement you just made. So amazing, Nancy. So I know you have a beautiful tool, speaking of which, a gift for our viewers. Could you tell us what it is?
Yes, I can tell you. I can even show.
Ooh.
This is my book. It's called It's Okay to Be Rich, The Entrepreneur's Guide to Increased Wealth and Personal Mastery. So it includes some of the things I've been talking about, but it also takes you on a journey to look at some of your beliefs, look at where you are in perceiving different things. Mm-hmm. And it is a journey, and then it gives steps for manifestation, talks about the law of attraction and how to really use the law of attraction. Mm-hmm. It's not just something, well, we don't need to go there, but anyway, the point is there's a lot in there. And plus some actual business habits that you'd want to create, if you're, no matter what business you have, coaching, no matter what, whether you're an employee or whether you have a business, it really works either way. So free ebook for people.
Amazing. I love that. It's so appropriate to the topic that we're talking about, because we're talking about actually thriving as awakened leaders. So, and I've been saying it for a long time, even as an employee, we must start thinking like business owners, because with that comes an empowerment, right?
Yes, exactly. Because we are business owners, if nothing else, our life. is our business.
I love
And we have
that.
to manage it.
Yes. That's
Yeah.
so great, Nancy. That was really amazing. Oh, amazing. So you guys make sure you claim the gift. You know, the button right below the video is where you get the book, It's Okay to Be Rich. I loved how frank that title is. It's so appropriate for where we are right now. So important to just so go through the exercises, use the tools. And Nancy, as we part ways, I get to ask every guest on this in the series in the salon, what is the vision for the world that you would like to leave us with?
I believe that we are transitioning from one age to the next stage, Aquarian age, but it's meant to be a golden age. Now, we are trying to give birth, and there's so much awakening with the people individually, collectively, and it only takes to go over that 51% mark to start to literally transform in a very physical way. There's some things that definitely have to be rectified, call it karma, whatever, that the planet and personally, we're all going through that. We're all being forced to come up higher. And it's difficult sometimes because we're used to being where we are and it's comfortable. So we can think of going out of our comfort zone. But I honestly believe, I really do, that, and I have since a child, because when I was in grade school, in the Catholic school with a nun, and she gave this assignment for us, if you could have 3 things, any wishes in the world to come through, what would you wish? Oh, for me, that was like a serious assignment. And I thought about it and I thought, how can I put this into 3 things? And my 3 wishes that I turned in were 1, every man, meaning every man and woman, would know God. Everyone would have perfect health, and there'd be peace on earth. And that was my vision of the golden age, and it still is.
I read it on your website. Those 3 statements you just made, I read that on your website. I didn't know you became aware of them as a child. Yeah. But it just so confirms for me that all of us who are awake right now have chosen, really, I mean, we say it, but it's so true. We had at some point awareness that this time would come. We had no idea what it would look like. Here we are. And that each of us would play a role. Thank you so much. Right. Yeah, thank you so much for being on the planet right now, sharing your wisdom, your magic, and that beautiful statement that I will make sure it goes in an email with this video because I want you guys to read it. Thank you so much, Nancy.
You are so welcome, Anna. It is my pleasure and honor to speak with you and to your guests. It's a blessing.
Blessings. Beautiful. Thank you. Make sure you claim Nancy's gift button right below this video, and we'll see you at the next conversation. Bye for now.